Hello, SEDC. Happy Tuesday. We hope you are off to a great and productive week. Like always, this is Matt Tackett with SEDC. We're so happy you're here. We know you are busy. We will give it about 30 more seconds and then we will get into the session. Thanks for being here. Okay, so I'm so happy to welcome you to a live recording of the SEDC webcast. We're so happy to have you here. If you have been on these before, or if you have saw me anywhere, you know that I love to say that we are the world's best positioned economy. We're the world's third largest economy. Our members developed well over 200 billion worth of new deals last year. We are able to do what we do because we have the world's best economic developers. It just is what it is. That is true. Deploying the world's best, most future-focused economic development strategy. That is also true. That is who we are in a global marketplace, and I couldn't be more prouder to be a really small part of the team. And one of the great assets and partners that we have that are helping us with that strategy is one of SEDC's keystone investors, Camoin Associates, and they're here to talk us through utilizing industry and market data to target market your community. It's so incredibly important to be strategic in all things that we do, including our target market strategies. So I will introduce Camoin Associates. They are a trusted economic development and lead generation consulting firm that helps communities and organizations achieve sustainable and equitable growth through expert analysis, effective strategies, and intentional connections by providing valuable insights and best-in-class data and personalized actionable strategies. The team empowers clients to make well-informed decisions that drive economic development success. Since 1999, Camoin Associates has helped public and private clients of all sizes understand the present and plan for the future. Clients include local, state, tribal governments, businesses, EDOs, obviously, industry partners, real estate developers, nonprofit organizations. And we are so thrilled that they have invested in SEDC as a great partner. We don't move forward successfully without them. And you will see them at our Meet the Consultants event and also at the annual conference where they've led sessions in the past handful of years. So thrilled to welcome our friend Robert Camoin to the floor, and he will introduce his panel and get into the weeds of this. And as he and they move through this, please be thinking of questions, pop those in the chat. They may or may not get to them in real time or through the course of their presentation, but they will be available at the end of the session. So we'll all turn our cameras on if you'd like. Verbalize some questions and we'll have a family style chat. So I'm happy to get out of the way and learn with you. Rob, the floor is yours, my friend.
Great. Hey, thank you, Matt. It's great to be here with all of you. Thank you for being willing to spend your next hour with us. We hope that you'll find this topic interesting and informative. Just as a reminder, if you could all put mute on, avoid distractions for the presenters. Who I have with me today, Tom Duretsky. He is an owner, vice president, director of research for Camoin. Tori McNiff, she's project manager. She's worked on a number of attraction strategies over the past year. Dylan Roberts, who's our director of Prospect Engage, which is a website sort of monitoring lead generation software. And then we have Karen Meyer. She's been doing this kind of work for over 20 years. She's vice president of lead prospecting. So the investment attraction environment has really changed quite a bit. I'm sure many of you feel it, you see it. It's gotten a lot harder to get leads. Companies are increasingly competing globally. So they have a need to be competitive and in a competitive location. So they're making decisions about that. Countries, states, large regions are getting more aggressive about their attraction efforts, which puts more pressure on others to up their game. And as a result, what we're seeing from many of you and how we're assisting many of you is that you're just getting a lot more focused and increasingly just turning to data, in-depth analysis, digital marketing tools, and innovative strategies to get yourselves in front of these decision makers. And we hope to cover all that. That's our objective for this session, teaching you, how to what data sources are now out there. There's so many, how to use them strategically, and how to create a good attraction strategy. And we'll sort of finish off. We've broken it up into 4 modules, and we'll finish it off with kind of a little twist around what does that mean for foreign direct investment targeting strategies. We're going to do the Q&A at the end. But if along the way, as Matt said, if you could put your questions in the chat, and then we'll have Karen kind of help us work through those questions at the end. We're also going to use a tool called Slido. Some of you have probably seen before, and we're just going to have you respond to a question at the beginning of each module. The question relates to what you're going to learn a little bit in that module. You can either open in your desktop at slido.com on your browser, or use your phone. And then to get to our event, you just use that number that you see on the screen there. You don't need the hashtag, just the number, and that'll direct you to it. And then we'll have about 4 questions that'll pop up along the way, and we'll just share the results quickly during the session. And why don't we, before we get right into the first module, which is understanding the data landscape and the data sources, we're going to jump right into the first question, which is tell us what sort of sources that you're using as a part of your attraction efforts. Business listings, industry reports, labor market data. If you could all just, we'll give you a little bit more time to respond. Again, all the information to access Slido is right there on the screen. And we've got 14 so far that responded. And probably at this point, it might change a little bit, but labor market data is clearly at top. Lightcast was the first, by the way. When we started out 25 years ago, that seemed to be what everybody used, Chimera. And then further down, we got demographic data, of course, increasing, probably a number of you using real estate data. And then it just moves on down the list, C2ER, quite a few of you are using that. That's interesting. And then the business listings, which you're going to hear more about throughout this presentation. All right, well, let's get started on the first module, and I'm going to turn it over to, I believe it's Tom.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks, Rob. So when we're looking at marketing regions, it's really important to differentiate between your objective understanding of the competitive position of your region versus the sales pitch that you're going to use to highlight your strengths. Before you choose the strengths that you want to highlight, it's helpful to have a comprehensive understanding of how your region stacks up to competitor regions when it comes to your target industries. Most EDOs have a general understanding of the assets within their region that they can leverage to attract businesses in their target industries. They know about existing businesses in the region. They have some understanding of utility and transportation infrastructure capacity and constraints. They can provide information on site and building availability and associated costs. Increasingly, there's a better understanding of workforce availability, skills, and training programs, and they know what kind of incentive programs are available. However, the most effective EDOs, beyond knowing what their own assets are, have a full understanding of who their geographic competitors are and how they compare. So, for example, beyond knowing that you have electric capacity available at 17 cents per kilowatt hour, it means knowing that stat for your competitors too. It's one thing to know that you've got 2,000 welders within a 50-mile radius, but how does that compare to other locations that companies in your target industries may be considering? So that's why we recommend that our clients perform a robust competitive analysis for a number of reasons. First, it helps to validate whether your target industries are indeed a competitive fit for your region. It helps identify other target industries that you can compete well on. It can also help identify who your major competitors are in terms of geography, both within your immediate region and in other metros in the US or globally. And it also helps you understand your relative competitiveness compared to others. Then finally, really, it helps narrow in on your value proposition and the data points that can be used to support your sales pitch. Ideally, the competitiveness analysis should be heavily data-driven. There are two categories of data that we like to look at: asset metrics and outcome metrics. So on the left side are the asset metrics. Those tell you how you stack up on various competitiveness factors that ultimately shape your performance. So this includes things like labor availability and costs, proximity to suppliers and markets, real estate availability and costs, distance to transportation infrastructure, utilities, cost of living, tax rates, incentives, and so on. And these are the factors that collectively determine how competitive your region is and ultimately impact your region's performance in developing your target industries. These might help explain why your region's performance has been strong or why it has lagged when it comes to industry attraction. Then on the right side, we've got the outcome metrics. Those tell you how well your region has performed when it comes to attraction and developing of your target industries. So these are kind of your standard economic development metrics around how big is your industry, how much employment growth have you seen in that industry, what's its contribution to the local economy in terms of GRP, new businesses established, new tax base, all of those things. And a comprehensive competitive analysis will quantify both asset metrics and outcome metrics. And it will do that for your region and also a set of competitors to understand how you fit into the broader competitive landscape. So how do you know which asset metrics are important? They'll vary based on target industry. For some industries, physical infrastructure might be more important. For others, skilled talent might be critical for success. And this is best done through a combination of desktop research and business and industry intelligence interviews. Research and interviews will help you uncover what success factors are most important to businesses in the industries when they're deciding where to locate or expand. Then you can tailor your asset metrics to align with these critical success factors. Once your region has a robust understanding of its competitive positioning, the next step is to determine which industries you want to focus on. From the analysis, you'll understand which industries you're currently best positioned to target, and then which industries might be more aspirational, those that might require further development of your region's assets to be able to better attract. Now you can select data points that support your sales pitch. Through your analysis, you'll have uncovered some positive data and some negative data. It's critical to understand both, but when it comes to external marketing, you really want to focus on data points that highlight your strength and de-emphasize weaknesses. The strongest sales pitch is going to emphasize how your region compares to competitors rather than simply highlighting your own assets. For example, many EDOs have a map on their website showing how far away they are from various major cities. To strengthen your sales pitch, you might add data that highlights what is unique about this locational advantage compared to other competitors. Or instead of simply listing the educational programs and institutions in your region, include a statistic on how they rank in certain programs compared to others. You might end up pulling reams of data in your competitive analysis that you don't ultimately end up using for marketing, but that doesn't mean it goes to waste. It allows you to gain a more comprehensive understanding of your region, as well as identify the best data points that can help you make your case in your marketing materials. Now I'll turn it over to Tori for a case study showing how we can put this into action.
Thanks, Tom. So to build on what Tom was explaining, we're going to briefly look at the state of New Hampshire. We developed a business recruitment and expansion strategy using all of the asset metrics and outcome metrics that Tom described. For example, a detailed industry analysis. And this later led to creating a specific life sciences attraction strategy based on our original key findings. So this is an example of a key findings page based on the industry analysis that we conducted. So what does this data say? Overall, this showed that there are clusters of opportunities in life sciences and advanced manufacturing in New Hampshire. I want to point out a couple of bullet points as an example of how we chose particular subsectors to focus on for business attraction. So let's take a look at the medical device manufacturing subsector. It is the second arrow down. And we found that there was a high concentration of med equipment and supplies manufacturing that had already seen steady employment growth. So why is this important? Well, this is important because this essentially shows us that there is a growing supply chain manufacturers that could attract larger biotech firms, particularly from Boston. Now, taking it a step further, as I mentioned Boston, we found that with New Hampshire's proximity to Boston, high wages in the med device manufacturing industry, and a high degree of out-of-state exports, this is a strong fit for industry attraction. They have an existing supply chain network that is established, and it has the potential to grow. So after the industry analysis, we needed additional data for the competitive analysis. So in order to create a business attraction strategy as a final deliverable, we needed to understand how competitive New Hampshire was in the market. So our team conducted significant research and data collection around the state's target industries, as you saw in the previous slide, and as Tom had mentioned. And this gave us a starting point for what I like to call grassroots gut checking. So essentially, what does that mean? Well, we started reaching out to hundreds of businesses to gather more information about the perception of New Hampshire. You know, we did this by conducting a state perception survey of non-New Hampshire-based businesses via phone calls, and we held virtual stakeholder interviews with industry and statewide leaders. We were able to prioritize resources to do this, including the staff time and budget, because we had the data on their target industries from our analysis. This is important because all of the data can be used to save valuable resources for economic development organizations, things like staff capacity, EDO budgets, and this helps by focusing on targeted attraction campaigns. You know, lastly, I will say, as it pertains to this case study, is, you know, this data helps create your value proposition because you know what it is after conducting this kind of research. So I'm going to turn it back over to Rob to introduce our next topic area and Slido poll.
Great. Yeah. And before we move on to the next module, data-driven decision-making and industry attraction trends, we got another question for you there. And on the last Slido question, it looked like somehow we accidentally put a green slash in there. Hopefully that's not been too distracting for all of you, but go ahead and respond to that. How were your community's target industries primarily determined? Data-driven, politically determined, perhaps they've just been, you know, known over the years what those targets are, or maybe somebody just wrote them on the back of a napkin and that's what you went with. Got 15 so far. Probably the outcome's not going to change too much at this point. Data driven, that's great. Legacy industries follows close behind. All right, let's move on to the thank you everyone. Let's move on to the next topic, and I'm going to turn it over to Karen.
Yep. Thanks, Rob. Hi everyone, and thanks for taking some time out of your day to join us. So we heard Tom and Tori highlight the importance of comprehensive data analysis and economic development to better define your region's competitiveness and the industries you want to target versus the industries you should target. By integrating this analysis with insights from company information and market data, organizations can identify priority industries and geographic areas for success. This data-driven approach facilitates effective resource allocation, aligning initiatives with regional strengths and competitive advantages. Simply put, it's all about using data to make smarter choices. For example, if your region lacks water capacity, but you really want to target the food and beverage industry, by analyzing niche areas where water isn't a primary resource requirement, you can determine if prioritizing this sector will best align with your business attraction efforts. So, how can organizations involved with bringing jobs and investments to their regions use company information and market data to drive decisions about the business attraction efforts they utilize? I think it's important to touch on some key global trends shaping attraction efforts and how they influence the use of data. First, we all know workforce is a huge concern, and not just the availability, but the skill level as well. Prioritizing the attraction and retention of skilled workers through investments such as education and training programs is crucial, as this continues to be a #1 priority for executives when considering locations. The impact of the COVID-19 pandemic fundamentally transformed our business landscape, accelerating the shift to remote work, prompting regions to adapt policies and infrastructure accordingly. And industries worldwide are rapidly digitizing, offering both opportunities and challenges for economic growth, with regions leveraging digital tools to stay competitive. There's also emphasis on creating vibrant, livable communities, focusing on factors such as affordable housing, cultural amenities, and recreational opportunities, really making places where you can live, work, and play. Small and medium businesses are being recognized as key drivers of economic growth, prompting more support for entrepreneurship and access to capital and resources. And foreign direct investment and international partnerships are actively being pursued to diversify local economies and attract multinational corporations through initiatives such as targeted marketing campaigns and other programs, which we'll talk a little bit more about later. With growing environmental concerns, there's a focus on attracting businesses in sustainable sectors such as renewable energy, clean technology, and green manufacturing. And communities are increasingly focusing on high-tech industries like AI and biotech to drive innovation and economic growth. This rising collaboration among government agencies, schools, industry associations, and businesses is fostering innovation and economic growth through knowledge sharing and resources. One best practice for economic development organizations to stay current on industry trends is by actively participating in conferences, workshops, and networking events. Now, let's explore a practical strategy for how organizations can leverage company information and market data to drive effective business traction efforts. Company list development is a pretty big part of our prospecting and lead generation services. Our first Slido question included a few examples of business list sources such as Demandbase, Dun & Bradstreet, Crunchbase, PitchBook, and ZoomInfo. Some other platforms include sources like Lead411, Data Axle, which was formerly Reference USA, and of course, LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Compiling lists of companies can be a valuable tool for economic development organizations in various ways. Lists help pinpoint potential targets for attraction efforts, aligning with regional development goals. These lists provide valuable information, including company size, location, industry focus, and even contact details, allowing targeted research into company needs, growth plans, and potential fit with your region. Company lists can be linked to various data tools for deeper insights into market trends and competitor analysis. And all of this data enables customized communications, highlighting regional strengths and incentives. Real-time feedback from target company aids in understanding region perception and areas for improvement. Tori highlighted an example of this earlier with her case study for the state of New Hampshire. And in addition, lists facilitate monitoring of engagement and response to those outreach efforts. And lastly, regularly updating and verifying company information ensures lists remain accurate and relevant. Our engagement professionals interact with executives in real time on a daily basis, gathering intelligence on factors driving companies with expansion plans and identifying obstacles hindering expansion for others. So once you have a compiled and vetted business list, engaging with executives becomes crucial for gathering valuable intel to make outreach efforts more effective. This engagement helps identify industry trends, highlighting areas of growth or potential challenges, focus resources on receptive sectors, and refine marketing to better resonate with target companies' needs. For instance, one of our clients that has engaged in several year-long contracts for target industry lead generation campaigns is the Virginia Coalfield Economic Development Authority, or Virginia's eRegion. At the end of each campaign, our team analyzes the data for companies identified as leads, looking at information such as company size, location, and industry. This analysis helps us adjust our focus for future campaigns based on which sectors attracted more leads and which had less activity. It also helps us identify the ideal range size for companies to target. Dylan will touch on this tool a bit more later, but another case study I wanted to highlight involves the Upstate South Carolina Alliance, which was one of the first clients to begin using our Prospect Engage digital tool. When the Upstate team wanted to get back on the road as businesses reopened post-COVID-19, we analyzed the data from that tool to identify companies in their target industries that were visiting their website. By comparing this data with information on COVID-19 related closures, we created a matrix of potential travel geographies, helping to prioritize locations that would have higher potential for qualified meeting opportunities. These case studies show just a couple of examples of how using data can improve economic development efforts. By using insights from company information and industry data, organizations can make better decisions to attract industries and boost economic growth. So now I'll turn it back over to Rob to introduce our next topic with another Slido poll.
All right, great. And before we go on to the third module, which is really going to cover some interesting stuff, really how important of a tool your website is becoming as a part of your attraction efforts, we wanted to find out from you, which are key pages that you feature on your website. So take a moment to respond to that if you would. All right, so the response might change slightly as I'm talking here, but GIS maps, available properties, have been a key page for EDOs for a long time. Information about the economy, and as you all know, how important talent workforce is, that has risen substantially higher in this in the priority, and other issues that you heard about or will hear about, things like workforce housing, is something that we're anticipating, and we're starting to see a lot of EDOs start to address on their website as well. Oh, great. We're going to turn it over to Tori to talk about your website, how important it is in your marketing effort.
Thanks, Rob. So to begin, there are two types of audiences that you want to target for your EDO website. So site selectors and developers, and business owners and C-suite level decision makers. This is important because understanding your audience sets the stage for the content of the website for your team. So for example, there is a place for tourism and economic development. However, it is a different audience than business attraction and expansion efforts. So plus, having a separate website for economic development and tourism is better for SEO efforts and streamlining messaging. So we already discussed using data in developing marketing strategies and using data to understand your value proposition. So now it's time to curate your website to tell that data story. So the first element of storytelling is showcasing your value proposition on your homepage. Your homepage is a summary of everything on your website, but filled with graphics and infographics to entice readers to stay on your site. Successful examples include highlighting target industries and workforce numbers, educational institutions, shovel-ready sites, etc. This is your time to shine, so make it colorful, informative, and intuitive to the user in particular, by including hyperlinks to other pages of your site based on the topic area. So before I dive in a little bit deeper, since I mentioned infographics, I want to explain quickly so we're on the same page. So infographics show data in digestible bites. For example, in the right-hand corner of this slide, you will notice rankings in an infographic of a tax bill. This is from the state of New Hampshire case study I mentioned earlier. Rankings and infographics of important data are great ways to showcase data and use rankings to support your overall value proposition. They essentially shout out how great your community is quickly, and they can go all over your website. The second element of marketing your website is curating a site selector toolbox to provide information that site selectors are looking for in their decision-making process. So they want to understand the location, demographics, and economy. They're looking for available sites and buildings. So this is an opportunity to highlight your certified sites program if you have one, or showcase an interactive tool like everyone just did in the poll that they can use to get more information on those sites and where they're located in the community. A large part of site selection is infrastructure availability. So this is a page that discusses in detail the benefits of your proximity to airports, highways, rails, ports, because this will directly tie to the supply chain and how your community is connected to that supply chain and proximity to major markets. Also, don't forget about utilities when you're thinking about infrastructure. This will impact development and decision-making long-term. Your next tool is discussing your community's business environment. This section highlights the cost of doing business in your community. As you can see in that right-hand corner, that tax bill, state of New Hampshire has particular taxes that they don't have, and they were able to highlight that. Thinking about the accessibility of government, ease of regulations, development time to market is very, very important, especially after the pandemic. Also, don't forget about incentive programs. What does your community offer? A quick pro tip, include business testimonials that will touch on each one of these topics so you can creatively tell your story through them. Peer-to-peer testimonials are a way to make connections and lasting impressions to those decision makers and those site selectors. Target industries. Now, I know we talked about this a lot, but it's important that you list your target industries with detailed information on each industry. Examples include highlighting information like data we discussed earlier, major employers, additional employer testimonials that were different than talking about just the business environment, and workforce statistics and programs for workforce development pathways. So essentially, how does your community support workforce partners in new business? Lastly, we have workforce and wraparound services. This is what everyone is looking for more than ever, and we definitely have seen this shift over the past 3 to 5 years. This page includes information on training programs, colleges, universities, workforce partner, labor facts, figures, and skills for your target audiences. This will include data on the number of students who are in related education programs that will join the workforce, because we're explaining those pathways from education to future jobs. And also something that we don't want to forget about is I mentioned wraparound services, primarily because this goes hand in hand with your available workforce. We're seeing housing shortages and rising costs of childcare and quality elder care across the United States. And it's important to have information on your community and how they're addressing those challenges. Now, don't forget to have a page dedicated to business retention programming and business support, because approximately 80% of new jobs and capital investment comes from existing businesses. So highlight those programs and resources, and particularly who to contact for those resources. And lastly, if your community is involved in exporting an FDI, please have a page for it and who those contacts are to support those efforts. And if you don't, maybe you have a state contact or a regional partner that is doing that work. Include things like events, trainings, resources, support your businesses in your community to have different avenues of growing their business. I'm going to turn it over to Dylan to talk about applicable case studies as it relates to this topic.
Great, thank you so much, Tori. First, I just wanted to touch on 3 examples of high quality websites that hit the marks on everything that Tori has talked about and everything that we consider best practices. The first example that you see on the screen is Upstate South Carolina Alliance. This is one of our clients that has used our Prospect Engage platform for over 3 years. They've had tremendous success with the platform, successfully generating high quality target industry leads from the site visitor information it provides. But the real primary reason that they've been able to generate those types of leads is due to the high quality of their website. Their website does a really great job of promoting the region and tailoring messaging to the needs of its target audience, which ultimately drives business attraction activity and has helped the region generate over 2.1 billion in capital investment in 2023. The next that I'll touch on is B Northern Kentucky Growth Partnership. They rebranded their website in early 2023. The new website focuses on providing up-to-date information about the Northern Kentucky region and spotlighting the target industry clusters that are integral to the area and its growth. In 2023, the website won the IEDC's Gold Internet and New Media Award due to the quality of the website. The third is the Develop Abilene website from the Development Corporation of Abilene, Texas. It's another dynamic and highly interactive website that has been instrumental in attracting businesses to their community and their region. Their website was built after an extensive strategic planning process, which helped ensure that the website's messaging, resources, and assets were all driving towards the same goal, business attraction. Now, your website can really only take you so far. You really must learn how to effectively use marketing and lead generation tools to help drive traffic to your website. I'm just going to touch on a few of the marketing and analytics tools that we have used and that we have used with our clients over the years. The first platform I'll touch on is Demandbase. Demandbase allows EDOs to segment contacts based on attributes including industry, geography, size of company. We emphasize the importance of understanding your target audience, which these types of tools can help with. By building targeted lists, you can ensure that your outreach is relevant and resonates with the specific needs of your prospects. Using tools like MailChimp, Dynamics Marketing, and HubSpot, you can create automated email nurture campaigns that provide valuable content and information tailored to different segments. This approach keeps your community top of mind as prospects consider potential locations. We've used these tools for client email campaigns and for managing our own newsletter very successfully. They all have their pros and cons depending on what your needs are. You can also use tools like HubSpot and Dynamics Marketing to design targeted landing pages with compelling content offers, things like white papers and webinars in exchange for contact information. They allow you to create forms very easily, and they actually integrate with your website, which is really nice. Using tools like Google Analytics is important as it will track website visitor behavior and help you understand which content resonates with your target audience. Tools like Prospect Engage will help you to identify the actual companies visiting your website and allow you to engage with those prospects, which goes far beyond the capabilities of Google Analytics. It can also provide you with robust information about the quality of the traffic that you're driving to your website and can truly help you to understand if your marketing campaigns are working. We created a website best practices white paper, which we highly recommend that you check out to learn more about what we've discussed about EDO websites. We cover very specific information that you can apply to your website to help optimize it for business attraction purposes. As you can see on the screen here, you can scan the QR code to download a copy for free. I'm going to hand it back to Rob now for the next Slido question.
Yeah, thanks, Dylan. Yeah, and for those that want to hear more about what you are hearing about today, and then a lot more details, get that white paper. Like Dylan said, it's free. So before we move on to our last topic, which is, international targeting strategies, we want to find out from you, where are you, if you are doing foreign direct investment, where are you conducting your outreach? Is it in Europe, Asia, Canada? Give you a minute to respond. As an aside, the majority of foreign direct investment does come from Canada and Europe. So we'd anticipate to see that, but growing amount from Asia as well. Got 6 respondents logged so far. We'll give it a few more seconds. All right, well, that may change a little. Nothing too startling there. You know, Germany, Europe, again, is typically pretty high on the list when you look at dollar amount of investment coming into the US. Tends to come from that region of the globe. Of course, Canada, and then to a lesser degree, Asia. Great, thank you for all participating in these Slido questions. Now let's move it on to the fourth and final with Tom. Take it away, Tom.
Thanks, Rob. So data can be a valuable tool for determining which geographies to target when it comes to international attraction as well, and how to market those geographies. There are a number of questions that can help hone in on the most suitable countries for attraction efforts. The first is, who are the biggest international players in this industry? For the target industries that you're looking at, which countries are the biggest producers and exporters of that industry's products? Which are the biggest buyers and importers? Understanding that geographic distribution of targeted industries globally shows where industry activity is concentrated and where campaigns to attract businesses to the US may be successful. It's important to look beyond direct US trading partners, as there may be other countries that are big players in the industry as well. Second, within your targeted industries, which countries does your state or region trade with? And relatedly to that, are the top trading countries for your region the same as the top trading countries for the US as a whole, or are they different? Understanding import and export flows for targeted industries provides insight into countries that are currently production hubs or key buyers that comprise global supply chains. There may be attraction or onshoring opportunities for companies in countries that sell to or buy from companies in your region. There may also be potential to expand the international customer base of companies in your region. And third, what are the FDI inflows and outflows between the US and other countries and regions? Understanding patterns of FDI into the US shows which combinations of industries and countries have been interested in investing domestically and in which US geographic regions. FDI flows can also shed light on who your key competitors are within the US for attracting investment from certain industries or countries. Countries with a high presence of a targeted industry but low FDI into the US may present new opportunities for attraction. Countries and industries with high FDI into the US overall, but low FDI flows into a localized region may also offer opportunities for the region to capture a higher share. Your primary data sources for this type of analysis are international trade data and FDI flows data. A public source for international trade data comes from the US Department of Commerce International Trade Administration. There's a tool called Trade Stats Express that allows you to explore trade flows by industry and by country over time. FDI flows data is available from the Bureau of Economic Analysis, the BEA, which can show you aggregate FDI flows by industry and country for all US FDI inflows and outflows. Proprietary databases are also available for more granular data on project-level deals to identify individual companies, capital expenditures, and job creation associated within individual projects. An example of this is FDI Markets from the Financial Times, which tracks all greenfield cross-border deals globally. This data, coupled with other research and interviews, will help you prioritize best fit countries to target for attraction efforts. This will, of course, also be shaped by your organization's capacity to recruit in various regions of the world, given geopolitical factors, travel budgets, language barriers, and other considerations. Once you know who you want to target, you can put together your sales pitch and supporting data that showcases your region's competitiveness, specifically as it relates to your target geographies. This might include similar asset metrics that were discussed previously, but your competitive set of geographies might be more global. How does the business case for your region compare to other regions around the world, rather than just your domestic competitors? Now I'll turn it over to Dylan to talk about tailoring your value proposition for international attraction.
Thank you, Tom. Now, once you've identified which countries you want to target internationally, you will need to begin crafting a strategy for outreach. To begin this process, an important question you should ask is, how can you tailor your community's value proposition so that it resonates with the specific needs and priorities of international companies? To tailor your value proposition, you should first focus on pain points, identify the problems your target prospects are trying to solve, such as high labor costs, supply chain disruptions, or access to new markets. You should showcase how your community offers solutions through lower costs, efficient logistics, or a strategic location for global expansion. Second, you should highlight industry-specific strengths. Align your message with the specific needs of your target industries. For example, a community with a strong research university could emphasize its R&D infrastructure for technology companies, while a region with a skilled manufacturing workforce could highlight production efficiencies for automotive companies. Third, you should quantify the benefits. Don't just talk about great quality of life, translate it into concrete advantages for potential prospects. For example, a strong education system might translate to a readily available pool of skilled workers. Now, taking that a step further, you will need to convert that value proposition into actionable steps to start conducting outreach. I'm going to cover a step-by-step process that you can follow for your international outreach. The first will be research and intel gathering. This will help you to gain an understanding of what drives expansion from potential prospects and what types of signals to look for. Some high-level examples of what drives international expansion are natural resources, agricultural products and resources, raw materials, access to minerals and energy availability. An example of this is targeting heavy energy companies in Europe who are looking to be closer to lower cost energy sources, such as natural gas here in the United States. The second is efficiencies. You can capitalize on companies that are looking to improve efficiencies to attract investment. We're seeing a lot of this right now with nearshoring for logistics in Mexico and on the border. And the third would be incentives and business environment. Investment motivations evolve over time. Something that's increasingly impacting decision-making for international companies are incentives, especially in these larger FDI projects. Government-funded programs like the Inflation Reduction Act, which offer large incentives to specific industries, are impacting whether a company decides to expand into the US or not. The next step is to develop your targeting tactics. This will help you to develop an understanding of how to identify companies that will be expanding and have a potential interest in your community through potential expansion signals. You can use attributes such as employee headcount or department level growth. Companies that are rapidly growing the number of employees or have departments such as operations, finance, or R&D that are rapidly growing may be looking at expanding. You can use tools like D&B or LinkedIn Sales Navigator to view these insights. Another potential signal is recent expansion patterns. You can analyze companies' expansion strategies, particularly greenfield expansions, as they are likely to replicate those kinds of approaches in new markets. Market accessibility is the third. Target companies with a visible market presence in your region, especially those that are aligned with original equipment manufacturers, which could indicate immediate market access potential. Ultimately, you're going to need to talk to these executives to confirm their growth plans. We have found that it takes a lot of phone calls, emails, and messages to reach these executives, especially internationally. So you must be willing to invest in continuing to reach out to these companies to generate results. Once you've confirmed that they do have plans for expansion and interest in your community, you'll need to begin nurturing that relationship, which brings us to the last step, which is follow-up, follow-up, follow-up. We find that this is something that many EDOs struggle to do effectively, whether it's due to capacity or not having an effective follow-up system in place. We highly recommend that you spend time on this step and recommend that you develop a system so you're not missing out on opportunities. Last thing I'm going to touch on is, as we've discussed, EDOs around the country have been using digital tools more frequently to generate leads. One of the tools that we've started to use in our client campaigns is LinkedIn Sales Navigator. We found it to be an effective tool for international outreach. We developed a strategy and a custom approach to use LinkedIn Sales Navigator for our client in Ohio Southeast Economic Development, to target heavy energy using manufacturers in Europe. By utilizing the advanced filters that the platform offers, we've seen that you can have success in generating lists of prospects from very specific sectors and industries in countries like Germany. After conducting advanced research to identify prospects, the next step is to engage with those potential prospects using strategic messaging. And that goes directly to the executive, which is one of the advantages of using LinkedIn Sales Navigator. There are many challenges of calling places like Europe or Asia. So it's a really great alternative approach that opens up additional outreach opportunities. We think it should just be another tool in your arsenal to help target and attract foreign investment. Now I will hand it back to Rob to wrap things up.
Great. Thanks, Dylan. Well, we've thrown a lot of information out at you. I'll see if I can sort of summarize it in, very high level. Of course, we're always available. If anybody's got any questions or needs more information, feel free to reach out to any of us on the panel here. But I think what you heard in one is that, the number and amount of data sources and information that's now available to you is growing considerably. And what you do with that information, module 2 is, how you have to get, more focused. We're just seeing EDOs have to really get targeted. It's gotten just so competitive. Everything is more complex, from the data sources, the type of analysis, and then the tools that you use, which Dylan highlighted. There's just so many of them now, and some of the newer ones, like some I hadn't even heard of before, but more commonly that you would have heard of, LinkedIn Sales Navigator, for example, as a new tool. And tying all this together, tying the data, your analysis, the digital marketing tools, and your website, which was module 3, utilizing that. You could choose, and many do, to do that sort of shotgun approach, put together large lists, start targeting them. And of course, you need to do that to create an awareness that you exist. But ultimately, your time and resources are going to be limited. And we know from working with a number of clients that if you have very limited resources and time, focusing your attention on those that are already showing an interest, those that are already going to your website, could be key. And then lastly, using all that information to develop a strategy. And we concluded with Dylan there sharing some examples of how to be strategic with all that information, particularly when you're going after foreign direct investment, and how that is a bit different. All right, we've got a little bit of time to open it up for questions. Karen, do we have any questions? And feel free, everybody, to just put them in the chat if you'd prefer. And Karen will kind of try to help us manage and work through them. Not sure there are any just yet.
Nope, I don't see any questions just yet.
All right, well then, Karen, I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay.
You've been doing this for 20 years. You've worked with EDOs all around the country. You've sat in on thousands of prospect meetings with businesses that have an interest in a particular geography. What would you say would be the best advice you could give to EDOs in how they go about nurturing that interest, that lead?
Yeah, that's a great question, and we see so many, as Dylan said, that so many EDOs struggle to do that follow-up piece effectively. And I think that it's just absolutely critical that when you engage with an executive for the first time, and you're kind of confirming or gathering those details on a plan, is that you create a next step. You got to have a call to action. It's great to have a meeting, to meet in person. You get all this great detail, and then it's like, okay, thanks, bye. Well, what's the next step? You gotta create a plan, and the prospect needs to hear the plan that you're planning, that you're thinking about. Whether it's like, hey, I'll follow up and I'll send you those maps or that demographic information, or if you're having an event and you want to invite the prospect, you need to be sure that you follow up to do that. You want to come see them. Whatever that next step is, it needs to be defined and it needs to be told, so that it's out there for you and for them. And then you got to stick to the plan. You know, everybody's busy. We're all traveling. We've all got limited resources. You know, some of them are really struggling to find that additional capacity. But you know, that follow-up piece is just so key. You know, whether it's just, you know, sending an email, you know, having a phone call, you know, throwing out an invitation for them to come visit. You know, the follow-up piece there is just really, really key. And it starts by creating that next step.
Yeah. And if you get to that point in the funnel where you're having a conversation with an interested business, follow up, stay at it, keep communicating with them regularly.
Yeah, the worst thing you can do is have a prospect send you, you know, a number of emails throughout the week, like, hey, can you send me the information? Where's the information? Like, hey, you were going to send me some stuff. I've seen it. I've been copied on email correspondence before where, you know, prospects are asking where the follow-up is and the EDOs just aren't getting back to them.
Yep. And I think what we're seeing too develop across EDOs is that the ones that are doing this well, the high performing, they're creating a system. They have a CRM. They have a digital marketing platform like a HubSpot or Microsoft version. They're tying it all together. They're using email. They're using text if they can. They're using LinkedIn and calling. Creating campaigns, very focused, adding companies to their mailing list for their newsletter that might be specific to a particular industry, really staying out front, and creating that awareness and getting to that point where they actually can have a phone call. I'm not sure if there's any questions.
Well, Shane just said, you know, don't forget Salesforce, which is, it's a tool that, we know a lot of economic development organizations use. You know, Microsoft Dynamics is another big one. It's what we use, that, you know, can create, you know, help you to create that funneling so that you can help yourself to get that lead through the process.
I got another question for Dylan, actually. You talked about LinkedIn, and you kind of went into a little bit of depth, but you want to maybe share a little bit more about the use of LinkedIn Sales Navigator, its usefulness with compliance with Europe's regulations around outreach.
Yeah, sure. Well, I'll start there. I mean, one of the things that initially attracted us to using this tool for a client campaign is the fact that it is GDPR compliant when you're remaining on the tool and you're messaging on the tool. Whereas if you're sending emails from your email marketing tool to Europe, you may not be in compliance with GDPR. You know, it's a very sophisticated law and privacy data law in Europe. And it is very difficult to stay compliant with that law if you are just kind of doing cold marketing and cold outreach. So that's one of the advantages of using LinkedIn Sales Navigator and staying on the platform, is you can directly message these corporate executives. You know that you're bypassing the gatekeepers, and you're staying compliant with GDPR and data privacy laws across the world, which is really nice. We really like the fact that you can also integrate it with your CRM. So if you're using Salesforce, Microsoft Dynamics, you know, they have those integrations. You can then start kind of tracking priority accounts. You can receive updates from those priority accounts. You know, if an executive changes jobs or if there's news about a company, you can get notified. You could really curate your kind of homepage in LinkedIn Sales Navigator to only look at or see notifications that are relevant to you. So that's something that I really like doing, and a lot of our team really likes doing, is really working on that homepage and the notifications that they receive. And then the last thing I'll touch on is just the advanced filters. We find that, you know, they have over 30 filters. There's a lot of different tools and just capabilities in terms of being able to target companies and target executives on there. So you can get pretty creative with the way that you reach out to and identify companies on there.
Great. I don't see any other questions in chat. Anybody have a question before we wrap up?
I've got a question here. LinkedIn advertising getting more and more expensive? Oh, and somebody said Navigator on our website isn't working. I will message our
As
marketing.
far as LinkedIn advertising goes, it may be, I'm not positive about that, but I do want to differentiate. We're not talking about sponsored content advertising. We're talking about LinkedIn Sales Navigator, which is directly messaging people on LinkedIn and using that platform to engage with people rather than displaying content advertising. So there is a difference there.
So Dylan, it's a tool that allows you to build a list of targets that you can then directly message.
Yeah, exactly. Either you could start at an account level, build a list of accounts, and then you can go to a lead level, which are actual people at those accounts and send messages to them. And we've done sponsored content advertising for LinkedIn with clients. We've done quite a few different campaigns. It's more of a brand awareness thing. You're probably not going to generate a tremendous amount of really high quality leads that way. Whereas with LinkedIn Sales Navigator, you are able to actually generate leads and target individuals.
Great, thanks. Good questions. Karen, any others?
No, thank you for the heads up on Navigator. I've messaged our marketing person. Oh, actually, another question just came in. What platform would you recommend for business recruitment software? i.e. Gazelle, Hoovers, etc.
Oh boy, we've had to test many of them. Karen, you've been most experienced with that. I mean, I'll just start out by saying we've kind of gotten married up with demand base, but Karen, what else do we use as well?
Oh gosh, we have our internal CRM has comprised of so many data sources. I think that if you are just starting off, engaging with someone like a Hoovers or Dun & Bradstreet or Demand Base to kind of like jumpstart your list building is a great way to go about that. And then through that process, once you've kind of got this baseline established, there are so many other data sources that are really kind of, unique, like Crunchbase, CB Insights, PitchBook, that focus on different aspects in terms of, like funding and venture capital. There are websites like Privco that really focus and specialize on private companies. Sources like Lead 411 that track changes and events that are happening with organizations. So yeah, I could go on and probably talk all day about all the different data sources. But again, if you're just starting out, engaging with a tool and trying to also be mindful of the pricing, as a lot of these tools are very, very expensive. But engaging in one of the larger, more well-known ones to create your baseline, and then utilizing other more unique sources to help refine that, would be a good strategy.
Yeah, and Gazelle, I'm not as familiar with. I know they are now owned by Lightcast, and they do have a predictive model for how strong a lead may be. There's a lot of EDOs out there that are using that as well. We have any other questions before we wrap up?
Yep, I don't see anything in the chat.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for devoting an hour or more today to the webinar. We hope it's been useful. And again, there's so much information there. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to anybody on our panel here. Matt, I guess we'll have you wrap it up.
Yeah. Thank you, team. I mean, this is so much great content in this, so many great data tools or data and tools available. So thank you all so much for leveraging those in such an impactful way across the American South. It's one of the reasons why we are who we are and why we win. So this wraps up this session. So from here, we're going to take a bit of a hiatus. Thank you too, Lauren. we're going to take a bit of a hiatus from the webinars, and we will move into, as an SEDC, to our major conference in-person season here. So we've done probably 20, 25 of these throughout the year. We will be back very soon with another really strong, robust session. So we hope that you will be on the lookout for those. We hope you will join us at our Meet the Consultants American South Site Selection Summit. There'll be probably 500 of the world's best economy builders there, including our team from Des Moines. They'll be on stage, and we'll also have a booth with us. Then we will be at Select USA in DC in the summer, and then we'll have our biggest party in our annual conference in July. So we're so proud to work with you all. Can't wait to see you in person, and we hope you have a great day. Thank you so much to the team here. Great session.
Thank you,
Thank you.
guys.
Thank you.
you.